Hey, what's up, guys?
There we go.
They're like, wait, oh, yeah, here we go. We're ready for it.
Yes,
Time,
it's
it's
Tuesday,
time.
guys.
It is fun way to. I love when we start off the show laughing already.
Because it's already, because it's Tuesday.
Because it's Tuesday.
It's
Hey, you
a
want to know a funny thing that you may or may not want to do? And I did this like a half hour ago. Go back and look at some of our first videos from when we first started quarantine and look at yourself now. Like, I think we all aged in like dog years.
Uh-uh. You're saying we don't look bright and refreshed?
It's
Not like
definitely
you.
accelerated the process. I've
Yes.
got a whole old man beard now. There's some grays in it.
Right?
Probably
Well,
just because
fix
our grooming is a little different. That's
a little
all.
shaggy, if you will.
That when salons close.
Right? Hey, go outside and get some sunshine and a little vitamin D. It'll put a smile on your face. And today's the perfect day to do it. We got great weather again today. We had beautiful weather yesterday. Take a look at our live camera of Grant Park. Beautiful blue skies, nice green trees, really, really pleasant conditions out there today. We're looking at a high temperature of 84 degrees today, just sun throughout the day. You might see an errant cloud here or there, but nothing bad to speak of. Another beautiful day really again tomorrow too. We're going to look at a high of 87 on Wednesday. Sun, you might see a few clouds move their way in afternoon, midday hours, but really not bad. Thursday and Friday, we start creeping up there in the above normal temperature range. And especially on Friday, 92 degrees, we're going to see that humidity really start to build in. And then late in the overnight hours, Friday into Saturday morning, that's when you can start seeing some showers and thunderstorms start popping up. Saturday also, the equinox, it is the first, or sorry, solstice. It is the first day of summer, officially at 4:44 p.m. on Saturday. We will be into summer, the longest day of the year. Ooh. And of course, it's going to be a rainy one. Also on Sunday, you have a chance of some scattered showers and thunderstorms throughout the day. And then Monday, the air starts to dry out a little bit. It gets a little less humid, but cooler temperatures, 82 degrees. So it should be a nice day on Monday as well. We just got to get that weekend in there with a little bit of rain.
We'll fight through it.
Fingers crossed, things start improving soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks a lot, Amy. Let's get to it because our first guest is already here. Everybody, we're going to welcome Nicole Witt to the Jam. And she's executive director of the Adoption Consultancy and Adoption Consultant. And we felt like this was an important conversation to have right now because even though that we have this pandemic going on, people are still looking to plan their families and expand their families. Nicole, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes. What are you seeing during this time with everything that's going on with coronavirus?
Well, I am seeing that domestic adoptions of newborns are continuing to go forward. That's the area that I work in. It is different for international adoption than for foster adoption, but domestic newborn adoption is going forward. People have to get creative, with some of the logistics of how to do it. But generally speaking, it's happening, which is really exciting.
I was telling, these guys, we talked a little bit before the show. I have a friend who recently adopted, and they were able to do, to get their baby and then do their initial court case via Zoom with the judge.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the judges are doing now, which is great. And it's worked out nicely because a lot of people adopt from different states than the one in which they live. So now they don't even have to think about, should we spend the money to go back there for the finalization? Because it's not always required, but it's a nice event to be part of. But now they can do it by Zoom and have that participation without the travel.
Is there a particular age group that there's a more pressing need for adoption?
Well, with private domestic adoption, it's almost always newborns. So usually the pre-adoptive parents match with an expectant mom during the course of her pregnancy, and then they adopt, pretty much immediately after birth. When the baby's discharged from the hospital, it goes immediately into the custody of the adoptive parents.
Nice. Are you finding that there are a lot of parents who are considering adoption are kind of holding off just for the simple fact that they're worried the baby's being born in the hospital? There's a lot of, the frontline responders and the COVID cases in these hospitals. Could I get it? Could I not get it? Is that causing a little bit of delays for some people getting into adoption?
For some people, I think it is causing some concern. And also, some people aren't sure what's going to happen with their jobs and their income and, that sort of thing. So I think some people are delaying it. But, if people are planning to maybe get it started a little bit down the road, this extra time at home is a great opportunity for them to be getting, some of their paperwork together and their plans in order and just getting really prepared so that when the time is right for them, they can jump right in.
So earlier, Amy was sharing a particular instance where a couple was having some difficulty. And of course, I've heard stories just out in the community, people that I know that have had difficulty with adoption. Why is it so hard? What are some of those roadblocks that people run into? Because unless you've gone through that process, you just kind of think that there's so many families out there that want these kids and so many kids that want families. Why can't we just match them?
Right. Right. Well, that is really more if you're talking about foster adoption, the kids who are really in need of families. If we're talking about adoption of newborns, there are so many more people who want to adopt than there are babies being placed for adoption these days. So that's really, the key thing that can make it really difficult. And there are no guarantees in the process, which makes it hard as well. The expectant mom can always choose to parent up until her consent forms are irrevocable. Sometimes that's immediately upon her signing them, maybe a day or two after birth. Sometimes there's a grace period where she has some window after that, but she always has the option of parenting. So there are no guarantees up until that moment. So that's, really stressful for the pre-adoptive parents.
I got a question, and you may not even be able to answer it fully just because all of this is so new. The Supreme Court ruled yesterday on transgender and bisexual civil laws. There was an issue before that President Trump was working on that would have allowed some adoption agencies to grant parents children based on their sexual preferences. Is that Supreme Court law going to affect this?
Well, with the previous law, again, that can affect a lot more with foster adoption because it impacts agencies that receive federal funds. And those are usually agencies that are doing foster adoption, although some of them do both foster adoption and private adoption. So I think I don't think the new ruling really impacts that at all. Where that comes into play and can hurt people is really in kind of maybe the smaller areas, more rural, more homogenous, where LGBTQ families wouldn't have a lot of options for finding other agencies who are willing to work with them. But if they're in sort of a diverse urban area, there will always be other agencies who are willing to work with them. So they just need to go to the right places. I think who it really hurts is those children in foster care, for those agencies that say, well, we're not going to place with same-sex families. That's so many less or fewer opportunities for the babies or the children in foster care to go into a loving home, especially since LGBTQ families are about 7 times more likely to be looking to adopt out of foster care.
I'm sure that starting the process of adoption can be an intimidating one because it's a process people just aren't used to. So how do you even begin? What is assembling a team to do that look like?
Right. Well, so I'm an adoption consultant, and that's where adoption consultants come into play. It's not required for people to use one, but what consultants do is I tell people we're kind of like wedding planners for adoption. So we guide the pre-adoptive parents step by step through the whole process and serve solely as sort of an advocate for them. So for people who want to take that approach, that really can be the best place to start and just say, I want somebody who's just going to walk me step by step through this. But for people who don't want to go that way, there is a lot of conflicting information out there. The best thing to do is, once you've decided which type of adoption, so say you select newborn domestic adoption, is really finding a good reputable agency that can guide you through that. And if you decide that you're just going to work with that one agency, they can guide you through the process. One of the other options, and it's the area where consultants work more in, is that you do have the option of signing up with multiple agencies. So that can help things go a lot faster. You have a lot more opportunities for finding that right match. So again, that's another benefit to the consultant side. But if that's just not right for you and you just want to work with one place, then that's really the first step, is finding that reputable agency to sign up with.
What if somebody comes to you and they're starting to have the discussion about adoption in their family? Maybe they have a natural child of their own, or they don't, and they might want one later. Are there anything you can tell parents to guide them whether or not that would be right for their family?
In terms of if adoption would be right for their family?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people that I work with have spent years kind of working through fertility treatments, and they don't necessarily have that option. Or even if they already have a biological child or children, they're unable to have more. So it's relatively rare that people who can still have biological children in the future do pursue adoption. It happens sometimes, but because adoption is, a difficult process, it's emotionally difficult, it's financially difficult, it's really relatively rare for people to pursue it if they're able to have biological children.
I know, because we looked into adoption a little bit after my oldest was born, because we struggled with my other ones. And we're a little concerned about adopting after having our natural child, and what kind of relationship we would have with the adopted child and then with our own natural child.
Yeah, I mean, I have lots and lots of clients who have had biological children first and then adopted. And, from what I know, and I don't necessarily stay in touch with all of them many years down the road, but the ones that I do stay in touch with, it's, to them, there's not a difference that way through the child. And, a lot of it depends on what is the openness that they have. What's the relationship with the birth parents? Sometimes that really develops into a beautiful sort of extended family situation where now there are even more people loving the children, and it can really be a positive thing. But they do have to be aware of it. You can't just pretend it doesn't exist, right? You do have to be aware of it, do the work, do the research to make sure that both of the children are growing up in a healthy environment.
I'm curious as to how you coach people on whether or not they should be looking at an infant or if they should be looking at a child that's older.
Yeah, and again, that there you're really talking about, private adoption versus foster adoption. And most people, to them, it's pretty clear what the right fit is to them, right? That's not something that people tend to struggle with for too long. People who are open to adopting an older child, who understand that in some instances they've had some trauma in their past and they really want to do something benevolent and help that child. And it's not so much about having the newborn experience. That can really be such a great fit for them. But for people who have, again, really struggled with infertility and are really looking to have that newborn experience and to, raise the child from day one, then it's just obvious that the private adoption is the better fit for them. So it's actually not something that tends to be that difficult of a decision for people. They tend to be pretty clear on which path is the right fit for them and for their family and for that child.
You mentioned private adoption as well as foster adoption. What's the difference between the two?
So foster adoption is through the state. So it's through the foster system. And that is when you are almost always, not always, but almost always talking about older children who have been removed from their biological parents' care by the state and placed into temporary foster homes. And that is, from a cost perspective, it's free or virtually free. Plus, there can be a lot of financial benefits for the child and the family, sometimes even free in-state college tuition, free healthcare, things like that. With private adoption, that's where you match with the expectant mom during her pregnancy and adopt a newborn. So that's going to be done through a private agency or private attorney, not through the state. And it can be a much more expensive procedure as well, because you are paying for the attorney's fees and the court fees and her pregnancy related expenses and that kind of thing. So those are some of the key differences between the two.
I don't think that I've ever heard of having a consultant for an adoption. So I'm liking it to, just from listening to talk, kind of like a concierge, if you will, for parents. So do you help them with the paperwork, their books to describe the family, and then matching with the correct mom and all of that down the road?
Well, we help with their books, those profile books that the expectant mom looks at to select who she wants to match with. And we do help with their paperwork. We don't do matching. So that's a really important difference. The agencies and the attorneys are the ones who work with the expectant moms and do the matching. The consultants work exclusively with and for the adoptive parents. But one of the things we do is that we have a nationwide network of agencies and attorneys with whom we work. So we can create that customized plan for each client and get them with the places that are going to be able to help them best, rather than them needing to do all that research and legwork on their own.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that can certainly be helpful. I am curious to know what your response would be to this question, because my husband and I, we have talked about adopting, not seriously, but to the point where we do have members of our family who work in social services and work for state agencies. And they have somewhat discouraged an older child, just in the sense that you never know what you're going to get. And I guess that's kind of true for any situation.
Right,
Your
right.
own child, you never know what you're going to get. But it does kind of make me, put some fear into, the situation. And so how would you advise?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's something that keeps a lot of people from adopting out of the foster care system, because a lot of those children have experienced trauma, and they're nervous about what would that mean in our family, what situation might we be bringing into our family. But those children, they need a good and loving, stable home. The thought of all these kids who stay in the system and then age out is really tragic. But it does take, the right family to realize, there may be some unexpected issues. We're going to have to be able to have the resources to support this child in whatever needs they might end up having. But like you said, with any child, that's kind of how it is. You never really know, what the situation is going to end up being. There's always a leap of faith involved.
Yeah, even with your own kids.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. Great information there. Really great conversation, and an important one for sure. Let's get Nicole's information up on the screen here for the Adoption Consultancy. You can see the Facebook there and the adoptionconsultancy.com. Nicole, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Nicole. Oh, she's just helping so many people, so many families.
Having such a close friend that just went through all of this, I didn't know there was consultants that could have done that. I mean, I feel like if they would have known that 6 months ago, how much easier their lives could have been.
Yeah, that was news to me too. It's a good resource for sure.
Yeah, really good resource.
So let's talk about Chicago Food to Go. This show, you guys should know, it's super amazing. Our very own John Hansen is hosting it. And it comes on Sundays at 9:30 in the evening. And basically, we're asking you to be a part of producing this show. So we want you, if you're eating out, if you're getting any food to go, we want you to take a video of the food, horizontally, of course, and make sure you tag #Chicago Food to Go, tag CW26 Chicago, so you could be a part of it. We're trying to spread some spotlight on neighborhood restaurants in our area that need some love. It takes all of us to kind of help support these businesses going through this pandemic right now. So whenever you're eating out, #Chicago Food to Go, take a quick little video, put it online, and make sure you tag CW26 Chicago in there as well.
Definitely. And speaking of local restaurants, we got a guy who's got his own vlog that's spotlighting local restaurants in the area. I'm talking about Joe Amable. You may know him if you're a Bachelor or Bachelorette fan as Grocery Store Joe. He was eliminated early from Becca's season 14, but he's gone on to do Bachelor in Paradise, Dancing with the Stars, and now you can see him all around Chicago, eating his way through the city. So let's welcome Joe in now. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Didn't quite see you there on my screen. My bad. So what's life been like for you, this reality TV star now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been bizarre, but it's been a lot of fun. Man, I wasn't on those shows now. It's been almost 2 years. So I'm getting back to regular life pretty much.
Is it easy to get back to regular life now that you're kind of a household name?
Yeah. I mean, I have a pretty easy time adjusting to it. But it's fun too. I mean, it's always, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
No. How'd you get that moniker, Grocery Store Joe? I know that it's connected to your family and their business, but how did it come about?
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is I was actually scouted at Whole Foods in the West Loop. And then the lady's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a part owner in a grocery store. And she's like, this one? I'm like, no, not this one. But we had, we don't have it anymore, but my friend and I owned a store on the south side of Chicago in Hegwish. And we sold it prior to going on the show.
Wait, so we can't call you Grocery Store Joe anymore?
You have no choice but to call me Grocery Store Joe, because everybody calls me Grocery Store Joe. It's crazy. I mean, that nickname's never going.
Never going away.
No. So, hey, I shop at grocery stores, so I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. You have to trademark that. Have you done that?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? Somebody else did. Of course. Somebody jumped right on that.
Of course.
Well, dang.
What's it like going from a guy who owns a grocery store on the south side of Chicago to then being on The Bachelorette and then Dancing with the Stars, which, by the way, I think you were robbed. I'm Too Sexy was my favorite number. I thought it was awesome. I mean, you go from like this, a regular guy to being on these national shows in like a matter of a year. It's got to be a weird head switch.
Yeah, especially because I wasn't a dancer at all, and I'm probably still not. That was such a fun experience. I made so many friends. Yeah, I mean, and it changes your life, but it changes it for the better. So you kind of just have to enjoy the ride.
I mean, huge props, I just got to say, because that is like my biggest fear right there, what you do. Dancing, I'm not a dancer either, but dancing in front of a major audience like that with this beautiful professional dancer, and you totally carried your own.
I would say I would have miniature heart attacks before every show. I mean, it was terrifying. It really was.
Yeah, it looked like it.
Do you have any advice for former Bachelorette star Caitlin Bristow? We just found out that she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. What advice would you give to her?
I think she's going to do great, actually, because I've seen her on like Instagram. I think she already knows how to dance. For her, I think just enjoy it. I mean, you have to enjoy it because it goes by so fast. And don't stress because you're on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the vlog that you're doing right now. How is that going? You're talking about all the foods that you're eating.
Yeah, it's going really, really well. Everybody, all these restaurants are so easy to work with. The point of it is really to highlight signature dishes at all these restaurants. When you go there, the one dish you can't pass up. We just did 1111 in the West Loop. Great spot. I mean, the restaurant is, I don't know if you've been there, but it's
I have.
Great.
Yeah, it's beautiful inside.
It's a Black-owned restaurant too.
1111, yeah. And I think, I actually think Virgil decorated the inside. So, I mean, the place it's incredible. So I'll be releasing that video. At noon today. And Ahmed, the owner, sat in with me. So
we look at a video of you with all the dishes around you. You don't eat the whole dish, right? Because I'm looking at that and it looks good, but it looks like impossible to eat.
Sometimes basically, yeah, what we do is we get their 3 to 4 best dishes they have, and we choose the one that you can't pass up when you come to the restaurant.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, I usually take a lot to go too. So, yeah, I mean, I eat a lot. I do.
You must have got a ton to make up for it.
You know what? It's just, honestly, it's good genetics. I don't know. I got lucky with that.
Do you have a favorite restaurant you've been to?
I mean, I usually do a pretty good job of going to all good restaurants. Kimski in Bridgeport is incredible. 1111 was very good, and I really like Monteverde. Monteverde is a good restaurant. I haven't done a video for them yet, but I live like 2 blocks from there, so.
Okay, you just said good genes, and Amy just asked you about whether or not you eat these full dishes. So you are working out or you don't?
I mean, I ride my bike. I ride my bike. I ride my bike and I do push-ups.
Oh,
so
if only it was that easy for the rest of us, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I eat a lot. I do. I mean, that's something I do.
So have you been able to eat as much under the pandemic? Because I mean, a lot of restaurants had to close. They weren't even offering carryout. So what have you been doing in the meantime?
Well, I started this a week before Corona hit. And basically we've been doing we initially started with just takeout. So we would pick it up and then bring it back and shoot the video at my apartment.
Okay.
So, I mean,
got lucky there.
Yeah, but it's definitely, it's a much more entertaining video when you're actually at the restaurant. So because we could showcase the restaurant as well. So
cool.
I want to know what you think about them now having the first Black Bachelor.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's about time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know Matt James personally. He seems like a really good guy. I know he does a lot of charity work. I think he does that. So like ABC Foods, where they go around and they do charity throughout, I think, New York City, but I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, I mean, he seems like a great guy. So I wish him nothing but the best.
Do you still keep in touch with people from The Bachelor, especially the ones that live here in Chicago, like Dustin and Diggy?
It's funny. I actually saw Dustin like 2 days ago. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we keep in touch. But you know, yeah, I do.
Okay, now we got to know what's your relationship status with Kendall?
We're still friends. We're still friends, but yeah, I mean, I'm single. She's single. You know, it's difficult when she lives in LA and I live in Chicago. So you have to really, I mean, long-term relationships pretty difficult.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that we are in the sometime near future going to see you on Dancing with Chicago Celebrities, because you could clean house in this town.
Do they have a show like that? Do they have one?
Yeah,
Really?
It raises money for breast cancer research. If you Google it, Dancing with Chicago Celebrities, it's all local media talent. You will clean house. None of them are good.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how good I mean, I guess I'm professionally trained, so I should be all right.
Yes, you can officially put that on your resume.
Yeah.
What do you think about Love is Blind?
Never watched it.
What?
You know what? To be honest, I never even really, I mean, The Bachelor, I knew what The Bachelor was, but before I went on it, I never really watched it either. I just don't really watch reality TV that much.
So are you still watching The Bachelor now that you're no longer on it, or are you kind of checked out?
I mean, if I'm home, like I don't go out of my way to watch it. If I'm home and it's on, I'll watch it. I watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, like reruns of that.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So why did you even go on The Bachelor in the first place?
I mean, it seemed like, you know, I mean, I don't dislike the show. I just didn't really watch it. But it seemed like, I don't know, why not give it a try? I mean, it was so strange the way it was approached to me anyways, where I was like, this will never actually happen.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm like, I can't go on that show. So I did it.
Would you do any other reality TV shows now?
I mean, I would entertain pretty much, you know, whatever. And if it's, you know, I would do my research, and if it seemed like a good fit, yeah.
You seem like kind of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy.
Like
I kind of am. I mean, yeah, that's definitely who I am, I think.
He's like, okay, I'll do this now.
Well, look, it served you well, right?
Yep.
All right, where are you going next? What are you guys hoping to shoot as soon as like all the restaurants and bars are open? Which, by the way, a bunch of the bars are opening tomorrow. Are you going to get right in?
Well, yeah, we've been actually my past. I think my past like 4 videos we've been inside. So we did La Luna in Pilsen, which is a great restaurant. We did. We did Kimski, and we did 1111. And we're doing a restaurant on the north side of Chicago called, I'm drawing a blank.
Too many places at such little time.
Yeah, a lot. So, but we're gonna keep going. So we'll see.
So how do you decide like where you're gonna go?
I know the food scene like the back of my hand.
Okay, so you're like, I'm going where it's good.
Yeah, I know what restaurants are good.
So Joe, where do you stand on the Chicago pizza debate? Do you prefer thin crust or deep dish?
I prefer thin. New York style pizza is my favorite pizza.
Huh.
By far.
Don't say that too loud.
Yeah,
We're like, okay, we'll allow it.
yeah, I get it, because Chicago pizza is a lot. I mean, it's heavy.
Yeah, I mean, what's your favorite deep dish? I like Pequods. Pequods is my favorite in Chicago.
I like Pequods, but I am a homegrown Lou Malnati's girl, so.
Art of Pizza has a really good one. Art of Pizza.
Art of Pizza. I haven't had that in forever, but I'll check that out.
Yeah,
Okay. We wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't ask about your dating life. What's going on in the middle of the pandemic, if anything?
Yeah, no, nothing. I'm just, I'm single, and eventually, I plan on dating again. I mean, I hope.
Yeah.
I got a couple friends, I'm just saying.
Grocery store Joe. Oh my God.
Well, Joe, thanks a lot, man, for joining us. Really appreciate you having you. I mean, hey, you're a Bachelor star, man. We look forward to seeing more of you around the city. You can see his information there. Joe Mable, What I Order, his Instagram, Twitter, and his YouTube page. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Okay.
And I'll pass along a phone number after you get off Facebook, because I think you'd be great for our EP.
Also, you say you don't watch Love is Blind, but they're getting ready to cast here in Chicago. Are you saying that you won't go on that show?
I never watched it. I don't know. I would have to see what I was getting into.
Well, you're getting into marriage, so.
Marriage right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, after a few dates, because they put you in pods. For anyone that haven't seen Love
It's
is
right away,
Blind.
Felicia.
Yeah, really, really quick. What'd you say?
It's right away.
Yeah, and you go on a few dates without ever seeing this person, and then you decide whether or not you want to get engaged.
Yeah, I think I'll stick to the Bachelor dating show.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, Grocery Store Joe, we
Thanks
appreciate
a lot, Joe.
All right, you got it. Have a nice one, guys.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
We'll make sure to get his information so you can follow everything on the vlog, everything he's doing on Instagram. I think we have.
We flashed it up earlier.
I know our producer Tina is just rolling over right now.
Yeah. Yeah, look for him on Instagram, the vlog as well. They're really fun too. I got to watch. I missed the promo. Okay. I was paying attention.
All right, guys. I want to tell you about a cool community initiative we got going on called Share Your Pride. A nice campaign we have going here honoring the Stonewall Uprising. Each June, Americans celebrate LGBTQ Pride Month, and that goes for us here at CW26 as well as the Incan Law Office celebrating Agents of Change. And we want you to share your stories with us. So use that hashtag Share Your Pride Chicago and tag us at CW26 Chicago, or send us your pride stories and pictures to jamrealshy@wciu.com. We're going to be highlighting your Pride Chicago all month long.
All right, guys, I'm really excited to talk to our next guest, because this is something that I personally have wrestled with in the last few weeks. Terrence Chappelle is a justice writer and the founder of Chappelle Communications Group. And we really want to talk about social media in this age and things that you should and maybe should not be posting. Like, what is supportive, what's not supportive, what makes you put your foot in the mouth. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people have done it, where you see posts and you're like cringeworthy when you read them. Terrence, thanks so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Hey.
So in this day and age, a lot of us, we want to support our friends, our Black girlfriends and boyfriends. And how do we do that? Coming from like a white woman, what's the best way for me to do that, to show support and not be, I don't know the word I'm looking for is, but like,
not be offensive or not be out of tone deaf.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And a lot of people, including some friends of mine, are asking themselves that question. I would say the movement and support really begins with yourself and being honest with yourself and being honest about your own internal biases. And then I would say before you even post to social media or before you reach out to your friends of color, I would say you need to really disseminate that type of messaging with your own network of family and friends, is because that's going to hit a little differently, it coming from you, another family member, or another friend, versus us saying this, because this has been going on for centuries now. And that's why you feel some of the frustration from the Black community, is because this has been going on for forever. And so what I'm curious about is what was the triggering point that kind of pushed the world to really pay attention now. So I would say, to answer your question, it really begins with yourself, doing research and consistency.
Because I loved Blackout Tuesday. I thought that was a great movement, but like, so I look at some of my white friends and they blacked out for Tuesday on Instagram, and then the next day they're posting pictures of their dogs. And to me, like that felt like talk about tone deaf, right?
So the thing about Blackout Tuesday, and Blackout Tuesday came under a lot of fire. You had a lot of people participating in it and didn't really know what it was, what the significance behind it. And what was happening is that you had a lot of people who were hashtagging Black Lives Matter. And Black Lives Matter is an important hashtag is because people use that hashtag to find information, to stay updated on current events and news. And so when people were posting Blackout Tuesday and hashtagging Black Lives Matter, it was like you would look for news, you'd see all these black boxes. And so that's why, and so I would say, like, do your research. I mean, I get the temptation to participate and support, and I love where people are coming from, but like wait a little bit and kind of do a little more research and educate yourself of like what's the significance behind it. Does it make sense for you to participate before you do it? In fact, somebody from Blavity said, could you please stop hashtagging Black Lives Matter with the black boxes, because it's drowning out like really important news that the community needs.
We should have been having important conversations, not just going black.
Censoring yourself, exactly.
100%. Terrence, I'm on Twitter a lot. I love Twitter. And it can be a toxic place. One thing that's happened a lot is this you trend, where somebody apologizes for racist actions or says Black Lives Matter, and then somebody comes back with a receipt of something they did wrong in the past, sort of feeding into this call-out culture. What are your thoughts on call-out culture on social media?
I would say that, I get it. And while I do appreciate an apology, that's great. But what I'm really curious about is what kind of internal work have you done and are you doing that takes you from that place from when you said that? And I think that's something, brands, L'Oreal got called out for that. And a lot of different organizations and people are getting called out for that. So I would say, like, invite people, because you did put yourself out there, invite people into that process with you. Be transparent about, like, you know what, I messed up. It was wrong. Apologize for it. And then give it some time before you post something in support of Black Lives Matter, is because it does feel like it's a disconnect when you apologize and then you post something about Black Lives Matter when just last year you were saying something that was really highly offensive. So I would say definitely, one, apologize, be transparent about the work you're doing on yourself, and then be real about the work. Is because when you're authentic and you're really doing that work, it doesn't feel like work to talk about it. Is because it's so seamlessly a part of who you are in your makeup and your character. It feels authentic and genuine.
And it's interesting you bring up, these brands and how they're handling things, because I think a lot of concern from people is that Black Lives Matter is just going to become a trend, like, going to Coachella or something. We've seen companies in the past turn their logos into, like, pride colored logos, and then their practices don't represent that.
Yeah.
Some people think the same thing's happening with Black Lives Matter in these brands, and people are concerned about that.
I'm really concerned about that too, and I'm really not to sound negative. I'm really curious of, like, how brands and organizations and people are going to interact with Black Lives Matter when the news cycle moves on. Is because eventually the news is going to cycle in new headlines and new stuff is going to be happening. And that's when I'm really curious about, like, how that engagement is going to happen. So if you are a brand or you're a person and, and if you are engaging with Black Lives Matter, when there's an injustice or when there's a death, that should not be the only time you're talking about this. This is something that should be, from a brand and organization standpoint, should be something that's so seamlessly weaved into your strategy. It's just a part of your brand ethos. And for a person, it's, when you're talking about Black Lives Matter, you're really talking about humanity. And so I would say, like, if this is the first time you're talking about it, well, welcome to the world. And then I would challenge you to, when the news cycles move on, to keep up that same momentum and that level of support. And that can look very different from people. Like, if you're not a protester, you don't have to go on protest. I think you need to figure out how that, support on a long-term basis looks like for you, so you can, really execute it in a very compassionate way.
Because that's been my frustration. Just looking at the emails that come through my phone from every brand left and right that I use, coming and talking about how Black Lives Matter, as though it's something new, as though Black Americans haven't been, yelling from the mountaintops about what's going on with them right now. It's like, how can you, but at the same time, I'm also happy that, it feels like people are coming around, but I guess you want it to be authentic. You want to see action behind it, and you want to see lasting change. How can a brand be an ally?
That's a really great question, and I think a lot of brands were afraid to, they treated Black Lives Matter, they politicized it, and they made it a very polarized. And it's not. You're talking about people. You're talking about lives. You're really talking about humanity. And so, speaking of call out culture, L'Oreal actually got called out is because they posted in support of Black Lives Matter and what was going on in the world. And they said, speak out because it's worth it. And they were working with Monroe Berghoff, which is a transgender model of color. And she called them out. And she said, when I spoke out in support of Black Lives Matter, you guys fired me. And so now, because what is going on in the world, you guys are speaking out about it. And they got called out, and she called them out. And, people were do what they do on social media. And what I did respect that what L'Oreal did is that they invited her into that process. They said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And now because of that, they had a conversation with her, and now she's sitting on their diversity and inclusion board, and they rehired her. And they pretty much gave her a seat. They extended her a seat at the table for to really create and ignite some real change. So I would say, for brands and organizations, again, be as transparent as possible. Before you even post on social media, Black Lives Matter really begins in the office and in the boardrooms. It's because there's going to be a disconnect between what you post versus how you engage with your workers of color.
Because I would think that's better and arguably more impactful to be have a seat at the table, as opposed to being an influencer, a person who is hired for talent.
Let me ask you this, because we're talking about what people should do, what's the best way to do. What are some of the things that we should absolutely not do? If people have blinders on, these are the things that they're just horrible.
I would say, for me personally, I did not watch when Ahmaud got shot. I did not watch when, I don't want to see someone's life get taken. And so I just think about, if that was my father, my sister, my mother, I don't want that disseminated. I don't want their death to be disseminated across the internet. I get it. I get why some news magazines and news shows do it. It's because if you didn't see it, it wouldn't be this outcry. But from a personal standpoint, it can be very triggering. It's because we're all grieving right now. And to kind of see that replay over and over again kind of sensationalizes it a bit. So I would say kind of steer away from posting graphic content of that nature, just because it is so triggering. And then before you do share something about maybe in support of the movement, I would say research it, make sure it's from a reputable site, because we know that some social media giants don't always check for us. So we definitely want to check on our end to make sure that it's coming from a reputable source. And then listen, and listening extends to social media. If you get, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be ignorant. It's not wrong. It's wrong to stay ignorant, and it's wrong to stay wrong. So, authentically invite yourself to that conversation. But if someone calls you out, listen to them. And then if you did something wrong, own up to it and say, you know what, I'm sorry. This was my intention. I get it. Taking it down.
No. Speaking of that, and I'd love for Brandon to weigh in on this question too, because I know he follows a lot of sports, but Colin Kaepernick in the NFL. Look at your face right there is Colin Kaepernick's face right now. How would you advise the NFL? Because, they're coming out talking about Black Lives Matter, and they want to do all these efforts and change and be a part of the conversation and support their players and everything. Literally everything that Colin Kaepernick was talking about just a few very short years ago. How would you give them some advice? Strategize.
When I saw that, I just laughed so hard. It must be so great to be this is what I was saying so many years ago. So similar to how L'Oreal handled it, and I'm not 100% updated on the matter, they may have done this, but I would invite Colin into that process and extend him a seat at the table, however that looks like. For NFL, money always helps. So donate to some causes, but keep that consistent. I would say, don't yes, begin that conversation right now because people are looking at the NFL. But I myself, maybe because I'm in marketing, I want to know what they're going to be doing a year from now or 2 years. Are they going to be keeping that same level of support and engagement? And if they are kind of networking with Colin, how does that seat look for Colin? Is he in a position to ignite some real change?
You said it multiple times in this 15-minute interview. You said be authentic. You want to know that they are coming to the table, not just doing this because people are calling them out or they're going to lose ratings.
100%.
Yeah, and maybe beyond Colin Kaepernick at this point, because at this point he may not be able to play. It may be beyond that issue itself and just lack of diversity in the NFL itself and ownership's lack of hiring people of color and focusing attention on that and putting dollars towards that. I think that's where the NFL needs its energy, and that's kind of where things need to be really zeroed in on the ownership of these teams, not so much the NFL as a body.
And Colin supports a lot of grassroots organizations. Support the organizations he supports. Amplify Black narratives. That's a great start.
I want an apology too.
An apology is always great.
I want an apology.
With his name
There's
in
a few people that need apologies.
Now, the commissioner did come out and say yesterday that he encourages owners to sign Colin Kaepernick. So that's a step.
Apology. You can't get that time back. These were valuable playing time in his career, valuable playing years in his career. And they basically said, no, you can't use your voice. We don't care.
Well, at this point, run up with some money. Money is always appreciated.
Yeah, I know he got that settlement. He did get a settlement for not playing, but still.
Yeah, does he even want to play anymore is another issue too. I mean, at this point, maybe he's better off being a symbol and a figure for social change than being an NFL quarterback. Yeah,
he's become such an activist, and I think I've seen pictures of George Floyd when the police officer had his knee on him, and then it's side by side to Colin, and it's like, wow, this is exactly what he was talking about. Like the universe just works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, literally a slap in the face. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Terrence, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation and one that we need to keep going because we're learning as we're going, right?
Of course. Thank you for having me.
If you would like to follow him, is it Chappell or Chappelle? I said Chappelle before.
You were right. It's Chappelle.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, Chappelle Communications Group, and also ChappelleCommunicationsGroup.com is the website. Again, Terrence, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. I love having these conversations because it's just one of those things where I'm like, so many things I'm thinking, and then I'm like, am I overthinking? Should I just put stuff out there? Or, but then that's insensitive too, because if you're overthinking, maybe it's not the worst thing in this case.
That's what people need to do. Get off social media and go talk to like actual people and friends and people you have connections with, like how we're having this conversation right now, I think that'll help expand your horizon and then also just advance the conversation forward.
Yeah, be less performative and more action focused, I think is the key. I think we're in this social media culture where we're all trying to post to the gram and show. Just do.
Yeah, just do. I like that.
Right now, we're just shouting at each other. We're just shouting at each other on social media, hoping somebody.
Shouting, discussing.
Not us. No, not us. Everybody else.
Everybody else. Yeah.
All right, let's get a look at our weather really quick before we move on to our next guest. Beautiful day out there today. We're looking at a high of 84 degrees, lots of sunshine, just a few clouds here and there. We're seeing another beautiful day on Wednesday. We'll get to about 87 degrees. Then Thursday and Friday, things get pretty hot and start to get pretty sticky. We're looking at scattered showers and thunderstorms on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the first official day of summer. So that will be nice. And then Monday, the moist air moves out of the area and things start to cool down and dry out a little bit. I just used the word moist and I hate that word.
Me too.
You always say it feels like a nasty, icky word.
It does. Just okay.
Moist. Okay, guys. Let's keep it moving. Our next guest. Are we ready for that? Let's see. Our next guest, we got DJ. Okay, here we go. We got DJ Tillman. Let's bring her in. 14-year-old. Get this. Hold on to your socks. Hold on to your pearls and your weave. She's a 14-year-old with a master's.
Hi.
Hey, she got her cap and gown on. Come on now.
You see me?
Yeah. Okay. Have you been to the grocery store in that? You should go to the car wash in that.
You should.
You should not take it off.
This is everyday attire.
Yeah, and you can't even go to the car wash unless your mom drives you because you don't have a driver's license yet.
Yeah.
You should wear the master's degree around your neck on a necklace.
Okay.
I should take that into consideration.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Give us the stats. Where's your master's degree from? And then what is it in?
So I have my master's degree from Unity College in Unity, Maine, and it's in environmental engineering.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Why did you choose that?
So during a lot of I have my associate's degree in psychology and my bachelor's degree in humanities, and they all seem to be very different things. But when I started having to take classes on things like compassion and empathy, I started seeing more in like the media about what was going on with our environment. And my mom was like, okay, well, maybe you should, because I had been in engineering program for my whole life. And so she was like, maybe you should go into this field. And I was like, you know what? Sounds like a great idea. And I kind of rolled with it.
I mean, not only do you guys your studies are like, above and beyond anybody close to your age, you've got a decent amount of extracurricular activities in the theater as well, and spoken word. I mean, you are busy. How do you do it all? And you're only 14. That's what I still can't wrap my head around.
So when it comes to right brain and left brain things, I try to stay as immersed in the arts as possible, because things like education are instilled in me and my family, and I'm so used to those things, they kind of just come naturally. And so when it comes to the arts, my family also does so much stuff with that I kind of feel like I can't not embrace it. And it's honestly, it keeps me like sane, it keeps me going, it keeps me balanced when it comes to all the other school stuff, because when I have all of this academic stuff going on, it can like drive a person crazy. So you need like balance, you need structure, and that takes the arts. And a lot of people don't really understand that to have any of these other extracurriculars and any of these other career paths, you're going to need things like the arts to get you somewhere. Like they kind of go hand in hand. So
yeah. So I want to know what you want to do with your degree, but I'm also like, well, are you going to have to wait like 4 years until you turn 18? Like, how does that, it's a real question too. How does that work? I mean, you're just so far advanced.
So when it comes to things like that, there are things that I can do at my age. Like and a lot of people's questions are like, oh, what's next? And so for me, what's next is right now I'm writing a book, and it's not like an autobiography. It's not like the book of my journey or anything. It's kind of like an inspirational self-help book for youth today. And I have a science STEM camp that I'm starting on June 29th. And I was working on STEM labs, building STEM labs in Africa when the whole coronavirus thing started. And so I'm still building as many STEM kits that I can to send down there in the meantime. So I can do certain things like that with my mom's help, and, find connections in ways to, influence other people without, maybe having, I can get my work permit like really soon. And so I might actually be able to get like a job, but I can get like certain internships and stuff, but I can get like a work permit soon. So that's really cool.
That book is going to be a must read. It's going to be a must read. So I'm wondering, what advice you have for any kids out there who are seeing this right now? Like, whoa, let me get me a degree or two.
Honestly, the advice I have for those people, like anybody and those kids at like specific, like I love having conversations with my family about youth, and because that's one thing I really feel like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to. I feel like, because I see a lot of comments, like I'll see like an article about me or like a post, and like the comments will be like, I am not even passing this algebra class. And I'm like, I have failed classes before. I am not perfect. I am a hard worker. And I think that's what has got me where I am, is my drive. And I think that's what'll get a lot of people to their end goal, is like staying on their square and being focused. Because I don't believe anybody is like some type of self-made. I think you need other people to get anywhere in life, no matter who. If it's just God, you're not going to get anywhere completely by yourself. So you need to be able to communicate to the people that'll help you, like what you need and how you need help to get there, and stay focused to get where you need to be. It's not like just, oh, like I'm smart, so this is why I did this. It's because I had such a drive and I knew what I wanted that has got me here. And so I don't ever want people to take from my story and be like, well, she's just doing so much more than me. I kind of want them to take from my story and be like, wow, like she got there because she was driven, not because of like pure smarts or what anybody might be saying or think.
Yeah. I love that.
Saturday, go to the mall with your girlfriends and check out
Yeah.
boys and shop? I mean, you do the 14-year-old girl stuff too?
I do like normal kid things. Like it's honestly, any kid will see me and they'll be like, well, you know, she's like basically like done with everything. And like, no, I still have rules. I still have regulations. My mom is stricter than, and she is with my ring light.
What just happened?
She decided to come in and she knocks over my ring lights. And so
mess up her light.
I was glowing.
Ah.
Do you see? I do normal kid things like this. Like she comes in, she messed up my light. Back to my story. I go to the mall like with my friends. I have like a very small group. Like a lot of my friends are like my dance friends or stuff like that. I have like 2 best friends and we like do normal stuff. We talk about normal stuff. I'm like the mom friend out of my group. Like I give the most advice and I'm the most like, do you need like a Band-Aid or like, you know, I'm very like aware of everything, like overly aware, like, oh, you know, that person might be following us. We're going to have to go a different way. Like, and they're like, no, they're going to that store. And I'm like, are you sure though? Like, it's so, my dynamic with my friends is like so fun because they're all intellectuals also. So it's, I just do like normal kid things.
I feel like you and I should be friends.
Yeah, right?
We should.
I feel like, okay, hold on. Let's break this down because I got my notebook right here. I need to know. So like on day 1, when you were born, what'd your mom do next?
So from the womb, I've been told that I was
came out, what happened?
hardworking. So actually, that's like an actually really interesting story. When I was actually born, I like started looking around at the nurses. I didn't cry, and they were like, "Is this baby on drugs? Like, is something wrong?" Like genuinely, like checking out my mom and like making her do all these tests because I didn't cry. I was just like looking around, observing. Like it was on little things like that from like a really young age.
Oh my gosh, you are such an old soul. So did you go to public school? Like have you been homeschooled since the very beginning? What's your journey?
I've never been to public school. I've either been to private or Catholic schools or like Montessori schools or gifted kids schools, but I've only been homeschooled since like going on 9.
Okay.
And when you're getting these degrees, were you actually like going to classes at colleges with like college-aged people?
So my actual classes, most of them were online, but when it came to like testing, I had to do a lot of like DSSP testing to pass out of certain stuff and to like get through the dual enrollment programs. I had to go into like schools like UIC and like their testing centers. And when I got my my associates in psychology from College of Lake County, I went down to their campus a lot since that's not far from like Chicago. But I visited my schools when I went there. Like for my schools for my bachelor's and my master's, but I did most of my stuff online.
That is amazing. Because that in itself, doing stuff online, because I took classes online too for a while, that's hard. You don't have anyone to bounce questions off of.
Yeah. So I did a lot of the stuff with my mom, which was I was driving her crazy, but I had fun. Yeah. Like I love bouncing ideas off people, like having conversations, like brainstorming sessions. And my mom got so tired of me. Like we were waking up. I was like, okay, well, I can't work in the afternoon. So we're going to have to wake up at like 5 so we can be done by like 12. Like I had to have normal school hours just super early. And then she was like, why is this necessary?
Okay, like, we should have noted that your grandmother is Dorothy Tillman.
Yes.
Dorothy Tillman, respected alderwoman here in Chicago, but also activist. And I was before this interview, I was gonna ask you, do you feel any pressure to like follow in her footsteps or anything like that? But it sounds like you got that box checked, girl. I think she is really proud.
When it comes to like being a namesake, I have her full name. There's like a lot that comes with it. Anybody that is a namesake, no matter like who you are, is going to be like, okay, well, you know, you have to be something to be proud of. Right. And like, honestly, I'm just going to go with the flow. And if this is where she instilled like academics in me from like a very young age. I've said in like other interviews, when she fought with Dr. King, he made sure that they stayed in school, that they got an education. Like that was something that was very important, or they couldn't come. And so she was like, well, she was like 16 and she was like, this is something that I know I have to do. So I'm going to get this education that he's telling me I have to have. And she has raised me with those ideals. So it has been very easy, not per se to like follow in her footsteps, to idolize what she's done and admire it and take from it and go on my own path.
Yeah, I think you're doing just that. My goodness. I mean, her name stands out just in its own right, but I think you're the same name. You're taking the same name and taking it further. It's amazing.
She was like, one day me and my granny were talking and she was like, you are just taking my name. You are taking, you look up my name and all these articles about you come up, and we just like joke with each other a lot. Like that's me and my granny's dynamic.
I love call her granny. You're talking about my granny.
Yes. Let her know we said hi. I would love to talk to her. I'd love to talk to her. Tell her we said hi. Look, congratulations.
Yeah, DJ, congrats.
Thank you.
Going to be watching your future because you have such a bright one. I mean, my goodness.
Thank you. May I add, you are so beautiful. Like you are so beautiful. I can't.
Thank you. Wait, we're all gonna take the compliment. Thank you.
Are, because y'all all are beautiful souls, beautiful personalities.
I will take it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No, your light shines bright. I just cannot wait. I cannot wait. Like, please turn 18 now.
Best of luck to you, DJ. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, bye.
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 Oh my gosh, she also talks like she's more confident and has better conversations than most adults.
I should have asked if she was going to go get more degrees. I'm like, are you?
Good point. I didn't.
Yeah, time to get my master's.
Right, she has plenty of time.
Right, she's already got her master's. All right, guys. Hey, we have our show coming up at 2:00. Don't forget. So we're going to take a little break for a couple hours. We're on our new schedule. Coming up at 2:45, we have a restaurateur and stand-up comic Alex Carbania here to tell us about his new HBO special and his passion for food.
Looking forward to that for sure, you guys. We've got a lot coming up at 2 p.m. We'll see you there.
See you there.
As in here.
Right.